Hi everyone, I really wanted to come on and do a video on breastfeeding, formula feeding, basically my experience and everything I've learned. It has been a roller coaster. Now Theo, if you're following my journey on Instagram or Facebook, Theo is at the stage now where he is weaning off formula and breast. They say to try and wean them off by one and start introducing cow's milk at one. But of course, like, this is completely up to you what you want to do. Some people breastfeed to two, some people breastfeed for free. So it's completely up to you. I think for me, what my plan is when we get to one, then then start weaning him off from there. I think I'm not ready to give up my breastfeeding journey yet, but I am in the same sense. Like, I've got a really love-hate relationship with breastfeeding, a really love-hate relationship with it, and it's been tough in some places, and in some places it's been so rewarding. So I'm not really sure what I'm ready to do, because either one, whatever you pick, whether you formula feed or breastfeed, either one is hard. Like, it's really hard when you first get started with breastfeeding, but in the same breath, it's also really hard to remember how much formula you need to take out, how much sterilizing you need. Like, both options are hard. For me at the moment, where I am now with my breastfeeding, it's a lot easier for me to do it. I've been doing it now for nearly 10 months, so now it's not hard like it was in the beginning. So for me, I think I'm just gonna continue how we're going. I'm slowly taking him off, so I'm giving him a bit more formula than I was before. Now, for those that are friends with me on Facebook, you would have seen my story, because I did go live on my Facebook quite a few months back now, I think maybe February, to tell my story and to say what I thought about both things. Because I mean, I didn't have a really bad story with breastfeeding, but for me it was a lot. It was a lot to deal with. So I'm going to start off by saying in this video that all the opinions in this video, of course, are my own. I'm just sharing what I've learned, my experiences. It might be good for you, it might not. Like, everybody is different, so please don't judge me. And yeah, like, take it easy on yourself. It's hard enough being a new mother without all the pressure of breastfeeding as well. So I want to start off with the very beginning, like before before baby even came. I did a course. So there's loads of courses you can do. I know a few of my friends did buy courses. I think it's NCT, or like, there's loads of courses that you can buy. I personally looked at a few courses and the prices were just ridiculous. Now, we're not on a high income household, we're just regular wages, so for us it was just ridiculous, the prices that some of these courses were charging. And actually, your hospital, your NHS should provide some form of assistance or course. Now, I gave birth in North Mid, in near Enfield. I think it's Edmonton where the hospital base is, and there was a lovely lady called Jane who ran a breastfeeding class there. She also does it, I think, somewhere else. I know one of the girls was saying. Now, I didn't get told any of this by my hospital, actually, at all, in any of the 100 appointments that I had with them. They did not once mention any of these classes to me. I had to physically go out and find them. Luckily enough, there was a girl on my Facebook, shout out to that lady, who popped me a message because she realised I lived local, and said, look, hey, these courses are run, this is the person you need to speak to. Where I live, there's sort of like two different catchments where I was originally. So there was one catchment that like covered Enfield, and one catchment that covered sort of like Palmer's Green, Southgate. So she said, this lady you need to find, go to your doctors, go to your hospital when you're next to an appointment and ask for these courses. It's only then I got told of them. And I know from speaking to a lot of my friends that got pregnant and had babies in sorry, had babies in Barnet, they also didn't get told about him. So I'm here to spread the word, saying check with your local hospital first before you pay for classes. By all means, pay for classes if you want, but do the free ones. They're there for you for free. Make use of the resources that they're there. So yeah, I'm so glad I did this breastfeeding course, because I also took Rich, and at first I thought, well, does he need to come? And actually, yes, they do. It's so important for your partner to be there so they understand the process too, especially in those first few nights when you are in tears, because believe me, you will be in tears. And I'm not saying that to scare you. I'm saying that to sort of lower your expectations of what can be. I think a lot of people don't talk about the negative sides of pregnancy. Like, they talk about labor and how hard labor is and how much it hurts, but they don't talk about everything else. Like, all that people kept telling me was, oh, pray for your downstairs area, labor is rough, blah blah, but nobody actually sat down and told me, hey, look, you might have an emergency C-section, this is how it will go. Hey, look, breastfeeding, this is the realism with it. Like, nobody actually sat down and told me any of this. Like, some of my friends were really good, don't get me wrong. If you're my friend watching this and be like, I told you, Jade, some of them were really good and they did explain a lot to me. And I know, especially my friend Gemma, she sat down and she did explain some things with breastfeeding from her personal experience. But yeah, it's tough, and until you do it, it's really hard to sort of envision what it's going to be like. So I did a breastfeeding class, best thing I ever did. I met another lovely mum on there who's been a godsend through this entire time as well. So it's good to make friends as well in your local area, new mums, especially if you don't know any, because these mums are going to be on the same journey with you, and it's really great to have mums at the same stage in their journey as you, because I've got loads of friends that have older babies, but to have one that is literally the same age, near enough to Theo, is a blessing. So yeah, in this class, she told us everything, like everything there was to know. And I think if I hadn't have done the class, when it came to it, I wouldn't have stayed breastfeeding. Like, there was things that I didn't know, like, try and have the baby as soon as you give birth, have skin to skin. And they go on about skin to skin and why it's so important, but for breastfeeding especially, sometimes the nurses are too quick to take the baby away, whereas you should leave your baby on you skin to skin, and your baby can smell your nipples. Basically, there's stuff, I can't even remember all of the technical terms, so please don't come at me, but there's stuff on the baby that comes out on the baby that smells the same as your nipples. So even though your baby can't see yet, they can smell you. So they will move up, and there was an amazing video that you watched in this breastfeeding class. They like move up your body to find your nipple, and they can find it because that's what it's natural to them. And when you first give birth, the chances of your milk being there is very, very slim. So another thing I learned from breastfeeding class was that your milk won't come through straight away. You'll have the colostrum first. And I was trying to get that colostrum for weeks before the baby came, and I was like, nope, that's it, I'm not going to be able to breastfeed because I can't get this colostrum that everybody else is getting. And I like literally worked myself up in a tiz about it. Not everyone will get colostrum. Your milk might not even come in that first night or the second night. I think my milk came in like 4 or 5 days afterwards, which is a whole other ball game. But like, there's little things that they will tell you in this class to take the pressure off. So then when you're freaking out in hospital, like, you don't jump to formula. Now, I'm not saying that formula is bad. In fact, total opposite. And I'm going to tell you that I use formula and why I use formula. But I'm saying if you want to breastfeed, it's not easy, and you need to be patient with it and try not to be quick with the formula. Because I think a lot of us panic and think, our baby's not fed, we need to give it formula. No, your baby will get what it needs from you when it needs it. You just need to have patience. So that's why I say do the class, because they tell you how to manually express. They tell you why things are so important. They tell you how to help with your milk. They tell you how your partner can help and what your partner can do to help get your milk out. And there's loads of things. So please go and do one of the courses. Do the free one. And if you want to pay for another one after that, by all means pay for another one after that. But take the free resources which are there. So yeah, the breastfeeding class I had was fantastic. Now, I'm going to talk to you a bit about my experience. Sorry, this might be a bit of a lengthy video, but I'm hoping that it helps someone. So baby came. As I said, I couldn't get any colostrum, so I just sort of forgot about that in the end. I just gave up. I know some of my friends were trying vigorously to get that colostrum and they managed to get tiny bits, but I just gave up with the whole colostrum thing in the end because it was putting more stress on me than necessary. So baby came, whole other story how the baby came, but the baby came, baby's here, baby's latched straight away. I'm so lucky. I know some people have trouble with that, but baby latched perfectly straight away, feeding, no problem. Next day, I wake up, baby's feeding again. Nurse comes in, says, "How's the breastfeeding going?" I said, "It's going great. Baby's feeding, baby's latching, no problem at all. I actually think that we'll be fine with this." Then she said, "How often is the baby feeding?" And I went, "I don't know. I haven't been timing it. I literally have just been feeding whenever Theo cries. Stick him on the boob. If he wants it, he takes it. If he doesn't want it, he doesn't want it." "Oh no," she said. "Oh no, Jade, you shouldn't be doing that." I said, "What do you mean?" She said, "The baby needs to feed every 2 hours." Now, this brings me to myth number one, and I'm going to talk to you all about myths throughout this video. So this brings me to myth number one. Your baby needs to feed every 2 hours. It does not need to feed every 2 hours. Your baby needs to feed when your baby's hungry, and as simple as that. So the nurse told me that every 2 hours I must feed my baby. And I said, when she came back around, I think 2-3 hours later, I said, "The baby doesn't want food. What am I supposed to do? The baby's still asleep, won't wake up for food." "Oh, well, you need to wake up for the baby." I was like, "What do you mean?" She's like, "If Theo doesn't wake up to feed and it's been 2 hours, you need to wake him up to feed." So 2 hours came. I'm trying so hard to wake up Theo. She told me to put wet wipes on him, take his clothes off, like blow cold air on him to wake him up to feed him. Now, I don't know about you guys, but if somebody wakes me up in the middle of the night and shoves a sandwich in my mouth, I'm not going to be impressed. Like, Theo wants to sleep. So when I tried to wake him up, all that happened was he screamed. He didn't want to feed. He didn't want to latch. I'm trying to force him on my boob, which then is more painful for both of us. Now, I haven't got the smallest boobs. And depending on your boob shape, where your nipple is, you will find certain positions are harder to do than others. When Theo was first born, because of how small he is and the size of my boobs, it was really hard to breastfeed him in a normal breastfeeding position. So I had to do a rugby hold, which is sort of like a rugby ball. So they go underneath your arm and then sort of feed like that. But because one boob's bigger than the other, I found it easier to feed on one side than the other, which then resulted in me only feeding on one side, which you shouldn't do because you need to make it even, because otherwise you'll get too much milk in one side and not enough in the other. So you need to change your position. So this brings me up to another point that I needed to make is make sure while you're in hospital, you speak to every single nurse, midwife, anybody that comes up to you and asks them if you're holding the baby properly. It wasn't until I think his first lot of jabs or his second lot of jabs, it wasn't until then I actually started feeding him properly. And in the meantime, before that, because I was holding him wrong and because it was uncomfortable for me, I got sciatica in my back. I got so many pains. Like, I couldn't walk at one point. If you'd have seen me, I was sort of like hobbling like that because of the pain all down the side of my body. You need to make sure that the baby comes to you. You don't go to the baby. That's one thing they teach you in the class, that you shouldn't be going down to the baby to feed them. The baby should come up to you and the baby should be in a position that's comfortable to you and them. So their body should be facing you. Their head should be facing you, because when you drink water, you don't drink it like this. You drink like this. So the baby should be the same, drinking face to face with your body, parallel to your body. So always bring the baby to you, and the baby's body should be facing you. So his tummy should be on your tummy or her tummy. So yeah, I completely messed up all my body from trying to breastfeed. So make sure while you're in hospital, while you're there, you make sure that you are comfortable with the positions of breastfeeding your child if you want to breastfeed your child, because it will be different when you leave the hospital. Because the hospital, one thing the hospital is great for is they have the beds that go in every single position, so you can get completely comfortable and you can lie anyway because the bed moves with you. When you're at home, your bed does not move with you. My friend did buy me a breastfeeding pillow. I found it quite hard to use because of the size of my boobs until a lot later. With Theo, I couldn't use it at the beginning, but I know some of my other friends swear by it. So it depends on, again, your boobs, where your nipples sit and everything like that, and what's comfortable for you. But definitely 100% make sure you're comfortable with that hold before you leave the hospital and before you've got no one there to help you, because like Rich is great, but he didn't know how to get the baby on my boobs. So yeah, so let me go back to my story, my experience. So the woman had told me to wake up my baby every 2 hours to feed, and yeah, he didn't want to feed. So I then left the hospital, and as I said, I didn't really perfect the position on how to hold Theo. And we go home, and I'm just so grateful to be home because I think we was there like 3 days. And then at home, Theo's not latching because the bed's not the same. So I could get him to latch on the sofa sort of, but when I went to bed with Rich that night, Theo wouldn't go to bed because he wanted to eat and I couldn't get in the position, and I was convinced that I was starving my child. So I think at 3, 4 in the morning, bear in mind I've had a C-section, so if I had a normal birth I would have jumped in my car and I would have been driving around regardless of how much pain I was in. But because you have a C-section, you can't drive, so I couldn't leave the house. Rich doesn't drive. 3 in the morning, I'm on Deliveroo scrolling, trying to get formula, trying to get something because I think I'm starving the baby. I'm in hysterics. I'm breaking down. Like literally, this is the worst night of my life. I don't know what to do. I'm crying to Rich. The baby's screaming. Everyone's just tired and a mess. And then the next day, my milk came in. My boob, you feel the milk come in. So it's not like, oh, has it come in? You know when your milk comes in. My boobs got massive. Like, it was there. I was bawling my eyes out. I was ready to go back to the hospital. I was ready to check myself back into the hospital. It was so traumatic. And I called my mum and explained to her what was going on before my milk came in. And my mum was like, right, I'm coming around. I'm going to bring you some formula, blah, blah, blah. So my mum came round with formula, and that started our formula journey. So I still continued to breastfeed because my milk came in, but I started doing 1 bottle of formula a day or in the evening just to take a little bit of pressure off myself because I found it way too pressurized. And had I not done that formula, I think that my breastfeeding journey would have ended a lot sooner, or I would have had another breakdown, because that 1 bottle of formula has saved me so much since that day, because it just took that pressure off. And then I was like, Rich, if I was knackered or if it had been a really bad day, Rich could go and make a bottle of formula and give it to the baby without me feeling bad. It just took that pressure off. So I think if we were to have another one, I would definitely do formula and breastfeeding again, even if it's just 1 bottle. Because also I've got a lot of friends now that only purely breastfed and now their babies won't take a bottle. So, I mean, as I said, whatever's good for you, but for me that really worked. So I'll be doing that again. Yeah, so it was a lot. It was very, very, very stressful. But we did come out of it, and we came out of it the other end. But yeah, it took a while, and yeah, when your milk comes in, that's no joke. The emotions that come in, God help anyone around you. But yeah, speak up if you're not happy before you leave. Make sure that you are happy with the position before you go, because honestly, you do yourself more harm than good. What other things can I tell you about? So cluster feeding is another one. When your baby's first born, and every time they have a big growth spurt, your baby will cluster feed. Now, this will feel like, especially before your milk came in, so those nights in the hospital, the baby wouldn't stop eating. When I say wouldn't stop eating, was eating every like half an hour or an hour for a long period. And I thought, like, This is why I thought he was starving. And I was like, Rich, I'm starving the baby. Like, he's so hungry. He's so hungry and I'm not doing this properly. And they will eat and eat and it will feel never ending. And at some point I went to Rich, I can't do this. I'm not cut out for breastfeeding. I honestly aren't. I was like, I can't do it. I can't do it. I'm not cut out for this. And you think that it's never going to end because it feels like it's never going to end. When you're tired and you're in pain and you've got this baby just attached to you, it's a lot. It's a lot. But I promise you, I'm here, I'm out the other end, and I'm here to tell you that cluster feeding does end at some point. But the reason your baby cluster feeds is because it's telling your body how much milk it needs to produce. Your body is so smart and your baby is so smart. So your baby is literally sending signals to your brain to then send signals to your body to pump more milk and create more milk for you. That is why your baby's cluster feeding, because your body needs to know how much milk it needs to produce so it doesn't give you an oversupply. Because if you produce too much milk, then you can risk getting like mastitis and things because you're not getting rid of the milk enough. So this is why they also say don't pump at the very beginning, because if you pump too early on, along with the cluster feeding, your body then goes, right, the baby's 8, that's your baby eating the cluster feeding, so this is how much milk I need to produce. Then if you stick a pump on it, your brain's then going, oh, nope, the baby's still hungry, we need to create more milk here. So what it will do is then create a bigger supply, which is fine if you're going to go back to work soon, or if you want somebody else to feed, if you need that extra supply and you're going to continue pumping to get rid of it. But realistically, you should only be pumping when you've got an established supply, or in the circumstances if your baby is premature or something, or if it's not feeding enough, then you need to pump to create more. But I'll go on to pumping in a bit. So yeah, cluster feeding is there for a reason. Don't panic, it does end. I promise you, it does end. Which then brings me to another myth where people go, oh, the baby's crying, it's hungry, you're not feeding the baby enough. Babies cry, so don't assume that it's down to your supply. If there is an issue with your supply of milk, your baby will not have enough wet nappies and your baby will be losing weight. Now, all babies lose a little bit of weight at the beginning, but this is why they monitor the baby's weight at the start to see that the baby's eating enough at the beginning. So don't assume that your supply is bad because your baby is crying or cluster feeding. As I said before, that's your baby producing the milk that it needs. Your body pretty much creates everything your baby needs. So the myths that I've heard are bizarre. Like, I get it. Like, my mum told me some of these and some other older generation did, because that's what they learned. But if you're breastfeeding, you do not need water. Your body produces the water and everything that your baby needs, so you do not need to give your baby water. You do not need to put rusks in milk to make your baby less hungry to sleep more. In fact, everyone told me once they eat, they sleep better. Load of BS. Load of BS. Doesn't matter how much food you give your baby. If your baby wants to wake up, it will wake up. And 9 times out of 10, your baby's waking up for a reason and not just to annoy you. Even though sometimes at 3 a.m, I do think it's just to wind me up. Your baby's getting up for a reason. They either need their nappy changed, they need food, they need comforting. It's not manipulative. They are babies. They need you. What else was it as well? Yeah, you're not feeding your baby enough. You're like, sometimes, I can't remember when it was, sometimes I would get the comment as, oh, because Theo's bigger, it was, he needs more. Your boob's not enough now. He's bigger now. You need to start upping up your formula or doing this or doing that. No. Your boob produces what your baby needs. If your baby needs more milk, they will cluster feed. Your baby has a way of getting milk out as well. Another myth is that if you pump, you'll create loads more milk, which does help create milk, but it's not the be all and end all. And also, another thing with pumping, people say, I can only get like an ounce when I pump, so that means I haven't got much milk. No, your baby will get the milk out that it needs. pumping is not a reflection of how much milk you produce. Some people can pump, some people can't pump, and also it's down to the pump, which I'm going to come on to in a bit as well, but it depends on what pump you use to how much milk you'll get out. It's nothing to do with your supply, it's nothing to do with you. Like, seeing what you get in the pump is not what your baby's getting. Just by your baby touching you alone, or your baby crying, or your baby being near you, produces the milk that your baby will need. That's why you'll sometimes see your baby like stroke your boob or grab at your boob. That's because they're getting more milk out. Sometimes, so cute, your baby will just play with your boob, and that is literally because they're trying to release more milk for them. So your boob will produce what you need. You only need to worry if your baby is not gaining weight and losing weight, and if there's not enough dirty nappies, but that's something that your midwife and your health visitor will check with you in the early stages to make sure that that's not happening. So we've covered my experience. Make sure you're speaking up, make sure you're asking all the questions. If you're not sure, ask. Breastfeeding class, formula. So as I said, after that first night, we then started giving formula. We started off with Aptamel because I believe that was the only one in the shop that my mum picked up, but we quickly moved to Hip Organic. For me, it was just lighter on his tummy, and I know a friend of mine recommended to switch this because Theo's tummy was getting really painful on the Aptamel. So we only did a bottle a night, and we use the from birth milk. Now, when you go to the shop, you will see that there's loads more milks, and then when they go from 6 months, they say to move on to follow-on milk, and then this milk and that milk. It's all a complete scam, basically. The only milk your baby needs if you're using formula milk is the first milk. The reason why they recommend the second milk and blah blah is because they can advertise on that. There's a law in place which means they cannot advertise on the first milk because they don't, the government don't want new mums to think that formula is better. Like, they want it to be a choice. They don't want people to be pressurized to use the formula. Like, you can breastfeed or you can use formula. So they stop the companies putting marketing on any of the first milks because of that reason. So no company is allowed to do advertisement or marketing campaigns around the first milk, which is why they then created follow-on milk, so they can do all their TV shows and adverts and special offers and things to entice people to use it. But the second milk, there's no benefit at all to them. In fact, it's just got more additives and stuff in there. The first milk is all you need, and if you speak to healthcare professionals, they will tell you the same thing. So we still haven't moved on for the first milk. We will continue using that. We've moved on to like 1 or 2 bottles a day. Sometimes I do more now, depending on where I am. We also get these really easy to use ready-made bottles too, because these are great for taking out the house. Now, if you're purely on formula, I don't recommend buying these because it gets expensive, but where we only do 1 or 2 a day, or I do one of these when I'm out the house and maybe I don't feel comfortable whipping my boob out, I'm quite open. I do whip my boob out everywhere, and you can breastfeed in public. There's no laws against it. Sometimes I choose not to do it in certain places. Then I will use one of these because they're just really handy. You don't need to make them up. And we're lucky that Theo takes cold milk. We don't need to have it hot for him. What other things with formula? So with formula, you need to then remember more things. Obviously, you can make formula the normal way. I think we've only ever done that once or twice. We quickly, after we realised we was going to do formula, quickly invested in these bad boys, which I recommend if you are a formula feeding mum, or even if you do the occasional bottle, because they are amazing. This is a Nubby, I don't know how to pronounce the brand, Rapid Cool bottle. So what this means is this makes it a perfect temperature for your baby. And if you buy it, and normally I bought a set that comes with 2 of these and 1 of these, which is just a normal hot flask. So if you do formula, have to take them out, then you can keep your hot water and your Rapid Cool. So how this works and how I use it is I get a bottle. So we use MAM bottles, mainly because I want to point out that we got a load free. We did a couple of private scan, and every private scan we did, we got a free bottle. Also, if you download the parenting app from Boots, I think 3 times in the course of my pregnancy, they gave you a free bottle. You just had to go to your local Boots to pick it up. So download that and do that. Every baby's different. Some babies don't take these bottles, but while they're free, I would always recommend to try these ones first. If your baby doesn't take it, then invest in other bottles, but wait to see what your baby takes before you invest in a whole kit, because I've seen some of my friends have to sell like loads of bottles because their baby didn't take it. We got some free. So anyway, you fill up the bottle with how much you need. So say you're making a bottle now for Theo would be about 7 ounces. So I'd fill up 7 ounces of boiling water. You chuck it in the rapid cool. You put 7 scoops of formula in. You shake it. This one you leave 3 minutes. Then at the top, you see this is green. So this light changes colour. If it's red, it's hot. If it's amber, it's warmish, but not right. If it's green, it's good to go. So after 3 minutes, you shake it, you hold it down for 10 seconds, then flip it up. If it's green, it's ready. Pour it in the bottle. 3 minutes to make a bottle. Now, 3 minutes is a godsend compared to a normal way of making a bottle, which takes a hell of a lot longer. And when you've got a screaming kid, you do not want to do. So invest in this. Invest in this if you're doing formula, because I promise you won't regret it. We did originally buy the Tommy Tippy prep machine. I actually refused the delivery before it turned up. It was on specials on Aldi, I remember, so I bought one because I'd watched loads of TikToks about it and saying how amazing it is. But then I think the day before it came, I started researching it more, and a lot of people were writing reviews that were bad, talking about mould and things like that, and something just didn't sit right with me personally. I know a lot of my friends use it and they're happy with it. I would just make your own judgment, do your own reviews, and read what people have said and stuff about it. I know a couple of nurses' pages I came across, they weren't recommending it. So then I decided that it wasn't for me and I went for this instead. But a lot of people swear by the prep machine, and that also does perfect temperature milk as well. So it's whatever's good for you. So yeah, we got these. Best thing I ever did. Now bottles take 3 minutes, and then we've got these emergency ones for the days that like we just need it, or if we're out the house. In regards to what we've got next, sterilising. So I was actually told you only need to sterilise stuff that's had formula, because it's something in the formula that you need to sterilise, but a lot of people said it's also the plastic, so each your own. I still sterilise now. I used to sterilise everything, now I only sterilise the bottles and these rapid cool things and the heat thing. But there's a few different things you can get for sterilising. So you can get microwave bags, which are good if you're going away, and if you've got access to a microwave, just stick it all in the bag, put a bit of water in, I believe, put it in the microwave. There's also microwave dish like this, which my friend kindly lent me. I actually still haven't, I think I used once maybe, but you can put all your bits in there. Again, you add water and sterilise things. If you buy the man bottles, or if you get the free ones, these actually sterilise themselves. You basically fold them all in together. There's instructions that come, add a bit of water, and you put it in the microwave as well. Same with their dummies, comes with a little container that you can microwave and sterilise. But I personally am a real big fan of the Milton cold water one. It's just basically a huge bucket. You fill it up, there's a line. The line is really awful actually. The line is the same colour as the tub, so you can't see it. So we actually got a Sharpie and did the line. We actually need to redo it because it's all rubbed off now. But that is one thing, Milton, sort it out. Why not just make a dark line that you can see? But yeah, you fill it up with 5 litres of water, then you add a sterilising tablet, or you've got liquid you can buy that you can add to it. Then you basically chuck it all in. After 15 minutes, everything's sterilised. Now, I've got mixed reviews on this. Some people say that once you've sterilised them, you then use them straight away. Don't leave them to dry because it defeats the purpose. I personally have never had any issues. Once we sterilise them in this, I then put them on a rack to dry, air dry, and then I put together all my bottles like this and then put the lid on. So for me, that's sterilised and then that's ready to go. But there's mixes out there. There's some people that say that's not sterilised anymore, so you can't use it, but we've never had a problem. So it's each your own. Like, there's loads of things out there when it comes to formula and sterilising. Loads of people do everything different. So it just whatever works for you and your family. So yeah, we use that. There's also a travel small one that you would have seen if you watched my holiday video that we also have that we take with us when we're away. Because we only do 1 to 2 bottles, the travel one works fine because it only has like space for 1 bottle. Obviously, if you do purely formula fed, it probably wouldn't work for you. That's something that you need to sort of weigh up. But yeah, so that's the majority of things. What else did I have to tell you? I've got my little list here, so I'm like trying to look at my list to remember what else I needed to speak to about. Okay, so let's go back to a few myths while I'm thinking. So another myth is that you cannot drink while you're breastfeeding. So all I wanted when I gave birth, and what I'd been saying for months, was sushi and a cocktail. That's all I asked for. I said to Rich, I said, once the baby comes out, there better be sushi and a cocktail there waiting for me. I didn't get neither. But when we got home, I did order sushi, which I thoroughly enjoyed. And I had some Bucks Fizz, and I poured a glass, and I called someone I knew, and I said, oh, I'm having a glass of Bucks Fizz. And I got like basically told off because I shouldn't be drinking because I'm breastfeeding and how bad it is for the baby. And I poured it away and I didn't drink it. And then I think, because it was around Christmas I gave birth, it was November. I think like the following month, closer to Christmas, I was like, oh, I'm going to have a drink tonight. And then I got some comments in my inbox saying, by the way, you can drink while you're breastfeeding. And I was like, are you sure? And then they sent me links and I started reading up on it. And you can drink whilst you're breastfeeding, but you obviously have to do it not like I wasn't doing tequila shots as much as I wanted one. Like, I had a small bit of alcohol. So read up on it. I'm not going to go through all of the do's and don'ts and why you should and why you shouldn't and blah blah blah. If you want to have a drink, go and read up on it because it's fine as long as you're sensible with it. I'm just here to say that you need to do your own research first. But yeah, I've had a couple of drinks. My baby is perfectly well. In fact, anybody that knows my baby will see that he is absolutely fit and healthy weight, if not very healthy weight. So yeah, you can have the occasional drink and don't feel bad about doing it. Another myth is that you can't have medication. There's in fact a lot of medication that you can have. Just be careful about the ones you can't. There is a lot that you can't have while you're breastfeeding, but they also prescribe it as well. So I had a C-section, so I was given, I think it was cocodridamol or cocodamol. I was given one of them, and you're not allowed to take it when you're breastfeeding. And it wasn't until I called the GP to get a repeat prescription, because the hospital said once I ran out to call them to get more. The doctor was like, you know, you're not allowed to take these. Why are you taking these? And I was like, well, the hospital gave me them. So when they say you can't have medication when you're breastfeeding, like, also the people that prescribe it to you. Like, anyway, I took those pills when I was when I had the C-section because I did try and stop taking them and the pain was so intense I couldn't cope. So if the pain is worse than not, like, you basically have to make a call, and I made a call. It was better for me and my baby to take those medications and be better and be able to pick him up than not take those medications and not be able to look after him. So it's up to you. It's your call, but they prescribed it to me. So when they say there's certain medications you can't take, just speak to a doctor about the side effects and then you can decide what's right for you. Another thing is, a lot of people say don't put the baby on your boob too often because then your baby will just use you as a dummy. Don't let the baby fall asleep drinking because then it will just expect it all the time. Like, your baby needs comfort. Your baby's been inside of you for 9 months. Then to be ripped off you, like, they want to be close to you, they want to smell you. So again, do what's right for you. But as I said before, your baby is not manipulative. They will try and get what they need. So it's about providing them and making sure that you're providing everything you can for your baby. And then The last thing, so I want to talk about pumping. I'm aware that it's a very long video, but I'm hoping this helps someone. I do want to talk about pumping quickly, but before I move on to pumping, I just want to talk about the things that helped me. So when you first start breastfeeding, it takes a toll. You haven't had anything on your nipple constantly your entire life. So of course your nipples have to get stronger and get used to that. And by being constantly, like, if you washed your hands 24 hours a day constantly in water, you're going to get chapped skin. It's the same with your nipples. They're going to get chapped, they're going to get sore. Some people use nipple covers. I did get given some nipple shields actually from a family member, but I got given them so late that there wasn't any point to using them anymore. But what I did swear by is this nipple cream, the lanolin nipple cream from this brand. A lot of people bought me Boots versions or other versions, but they didn't work for me. This one was the best, and it was expensive, but for me, worth every penny. Pardon me. And I also invested in silverette nipple cuts. So they're basically little silver nipple shields that sit over your nipples. And because they retain the moisture and the cream, they basically heal it quicker. So for me, they were a godsend. I actually started using them before I gave birth because I got really sensitive nipples during pregnancy, and they were just amazing. So that with these, dream in heaven. But there are loads of other creams that you can get, and also invest in some breast pads. Again, there's so many different ones of these. I actually didn't buy any breast pads apart from some reusable ones, which just basically look like giant cotton pads basically. These ones I love because you could reuse them and they were soft on your skin. But I got so many breast pads from people from my baby shower and from Boots as well. They gave a box sort of this size. Twice I think I got them free. And then my lovely friend dropped these around a few months ago, but I no longer need them, so they'll get saved for someone else, or if we do have another one. But yeah, definitely recommending getting some reusable nipple pads, especially for bed, because it's comfortable. There'll be a time when you no longer need them, but trust me, you do need them in the beginning because you do leak everywhere, and I thought I wasn't leaking, but you do leak. You leak all the time, even without realising. It might even just be a little bit. You always leak. So get some breast pads. Then we come to pumping and the hacker. I did do a couple of posts on the hacker of how amazing this is. As I said, you're leaking all the time, even when you don't realise it. So when your baby's feeding on one side, your other one's leaking. Sometimes it's loads, sometimes it's a tiny bit which you don't notice, but it's there. And because if you wear breast pads, you can't see it. Sometimes you take the breast pad out and you're like, well, I didn't, but you are. So with this, absolutely amazing. These are, I 100%, I think every mum should have one when they give birth. So when you're feeding with this one, you basically attach the other one, and then any letdown you get gets collected. And I always recommend to use it. Even if you think you're not getting much, even if it's just like a tiny dribble, the more you use it, the more that will come. You can also use it as a manual pump as well, but I never did. But the milk that you get from that, I got enough milk, so then when somebody did babysit, there was milk there. I used to get like 2-3 ounces, even 4 ounces at a time, just by literally holding it there. Also, if you do get any blocked nipple ducts or anything like that, you can put some warm water and some like Epsom salts in there and put it on, and that will help draw it out as well. There's loads of things that you can use for this too. They do have covers that you can buy to go over them, or I used to just get what I could from there and then pour them in breast milk storage bags. Again, I only invested in one box of these and I've still got loads of them left because I stopped pumping. But they're good to have and keep hold of milk as well. They can, I think it lasts in the fridge for 3 or 4 days, then in the freezer for a few months. So definitely invest in that, because anything you do get is worth holding on to, because even if you stop breastfeeding, you can add it when you start weaning to food. So you can add it into like mash and things like that, or you can use it in baths if they get like teething spots, they sometimes get, or if they get sore. Your breast milk is really good for that, so you can use it in their baths, or you can use it to rub over them if they get anything wrong with them. It helps heal loads of things. So look into what breast milk can do, but definitely worth keeping it. Even if you don't plan on breastfeeding, keep what you can. Now in regards to pumps, so I think this video is going to be about an hour, sorry, but yeah, in regards to pumps, can you hear them? They're ahhing in the corner. This Theo's new thing, he goes ah, and then Rich will start doing it. But yeah, in regards to pumps, I said it on my other video, I think there should be something like sling libraries where you can go rent a pump, try it out, see if it's right for you, and then buy your own if you want, because there is so much advertisement on pumps and why you should have this pump, and especially with the world how it is with TikTok and Instagram and Facebook, with all these sites all saying, all these influencers basically going to whoever's giving them the most money. And some people would just recommend things that are crap. And there's some things out there that are good, but only good for you. So I think there should be a place where you should rent breast pumps, because everyone's different. Now, luckily enough for me, I literally so much love for my friend. She lent me so much stuff, and luckily for me, she had the LV pump, and she had a Bella baby pump. Because I was going to invest in an LV pump. Now, there's nothing wrong with LV pumps. I'm not going to slate the company. They work for a lot of people. Me personally, because of the way my boob sits, it didn't work for me. My boob was just too big. It didn't sit right. So the purpose of these is they basically sit in your bra and you can wear them, so you don't have to go out of your way. You can just pop them in your bra and it will use electricity to take the milk, and it does this sucking action as if your baby would to get the milk, and then it will collect it all for you. Big thing with pumps as well is you need to measure your nipple size so you get the right flange, because each person's different. But this one basically did not work for me, and it is really pricey. So had I spent the money on it brand new, I would be very, very, very upset, because I think it's like £200 just for one of them. And if you want two, I think it's a lot more, or something like that. And yeah, it didn't do anything for me. It got the tiniest bit of milk. I think the most I ever got in this was an ounce, I think, and I wore it for a good hour. So yeah, it didn't work for me. So luckily my friend had it, so I could borrow it. She also had this one, is the one that she used, because she bought the LV after she'd finished her breastfeeding journey for her next baby. She also had this one. I believe she got this one from Amazon, the Bella baby. Now this one was really good. So how this one works is you charge it, so it can be used without being plugged in. Then it's got these cords, so it's a double one. And these basically attach to these bottles like so. So you can literally hold them, I've only got one here, but hold them against your boobs like this and literally just get your milk out. It's got various settings on this little battery pack, and that's again an electric pump that will take it out. Now some days this would get 5, 6, 7 ounces, some days 1, 2. So it depends on the day, it depends on the time, it depends on when your baby's fed as well. So it depends on a lot of things. So if you are somebody that wants to pump, wants to get extra supply, or just wants to pump because you want somebody else to feed baby, etc., try pumping at different times of the day. There's also a lot of groups out there on Facebook especially. If any of you do need further information or do want further help, let me know in the comments or pop me a message, because there's groups that are out there to help you, and there's groups where there's just purely mums that pump and express, and they are the best person. I didn't do it for that long, so I did do it quite a lot, but I stopped after a while. It was just a bit of a faff for me, and it was just too much when you could just stick the baby on the boob. And another thing is, make sure if you are pumping and you do want your partner to use the milk, that they use it, because between the formula and Rich and my family and friends, they didn't really use much of the freezer stash, so I just found like I was just creating all of this milk in the freezer for nothing. So yeah, make sure you're using it if you are pumping. But This one was definitely the best for me. It was the one that got the most milk electrically. I didn't invest in any more after this because I was just like, you know what, I don't want the risk of buying one and it doesn't work for me. But what I did buy was a manual pump. And the reason I bought a manual pump, I can't remember why I bought a manual pump in the end. I think I wasn't getting enough on the electric one, and when I went to Boots, the pump was, oh no, I think what it was is I couldn't find the charger for this one day, and I needed to pump, and I bought this one because I think it was like £15 in Boots, and I had a load of Boots points as well, so I got it free basically. And actually, the manual one for me worked the best, whereas I've had friends that have tried manual ones and they didn't. Every time I used the manual one, I would fill up this bottle. Like, I would literally fill it up the whole way, and this is 6 ounces. Whereas the electric one would take ages and I would barely fill it up. So I would invest in the manual one because they're cheap, to give it a go anyway. Then if you are finding you don't mind pumping, etc., then get an electric one. But if you can borrow one. And now there's loads of things on Facebook or Google, and some people say you shouldn't use pre-owned ones. I did, and I'm fine. So it's up to you what you want to do, but I'm glad that I didn't spend all that money for it not to work for me. But I really think that's about it on everything with my journey. As I said before, if you have any questions or if you need any help, my inbox is always open. You can find me on Instagram with the same handle as my YouTube, which is X Princess Jade's Diaries X, or on Facebook, my name's Jade Greenwald. Feel free to Facebook me or Instagram me and pop me a message. If you need any help, or if you're struggling, because I've been there, don't listen to the myths. Don't get yourself worked up about what people say. Do what's right for you and yourself. And if you can only breastfeed for 3 months, if you can only breastfeed for a month, if you can only breastfeed for a week, if you can breastfeed for 3 years, whatever you want to do and whatever's right for you is what's right. It doesn't matter about anybody else. It's about you and your family. And I started this journey saying I was only ever going to do 3 months, and then 3 months turned to 6 months, and now I'm sitting here at nearly 10 months going, well, maybe I might as well do it to a year. So it is just down to you and what you want to do. The reasoning for me carrying on doing it personally is now I've established my milk flow is no bother to me. I do the occasional formula to give myself a break. He's also eating now, so he's not drinking as much either. And for me, it's cheaper, it's free. I don't need to sterilise my boobs. I don't need to wash up. I don't need to make a bottle. I can just stick him on it when it cries. So it just depends on what works for you, and for us, that's what works. So I hope this video has been helpful for you. I am, as I always say, going to try and do a lot more. There are some other videos on my channel if you want to check them out. But if you do have a video that you want me to do, pop me a message. I am open to feedback as well. But whatever you're doing today, I hope you have a lovely day, and I will speak to you all soon. Bye!